I thought restoring the rear suspension on my 1965 GTO would be very straightforward and even easy. That is, until the car nearly fell off the lift. Hi, my name is Todd. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my shop. While working on the rear suspension of my GTO, carelessness on my part nearly turned this restoration into a disaster, a catastrophic disaster. In this video, I'm going to show you how I approached the rear suspension rebuild, some of the challenges that I faced, and how I overcame some unexpected issues. I'm also going to share with you a very tense moment where a mistake I made very nearly caused my car to fall off the lift. I'd like to send out a big thank you to everyone watching and everyone who has supported my channel thus far by subscribing, liking, and commenting, and sharing my videos. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you. And if this is your first time with us, welcome. And please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons for me. Okay, let's get the car up on the lift. Okay, well, this is what the suspension looks like, obviously, after the rebuild was complete. And before I started the rebuild, I decided to take and do the rear suspension before I did the front suspension. And the reason for that was complexity. The front suspension obviously is much more complex than the rear suspension is. And I thought, well, I'm teaching myself how to do this, so let's do the rear suspension first because it's obviously going to be easier. And yeah, it is less labor intensive than the front suspension, but the rear suspension restoration was actually far more challenging than what I initially thought. I thought it would just be an easy, one day type of deal and we'd be all done with it, but that was not the case. So the components that I replaced, the shocks obviously are new. It's interesting, you'll notice in some of the other pictures that I've put up, the white shocks that are on it were actually coilover shocks. And that's original equipment to the car. One of the options that you could get on this car in 1965 was a heavy-duty rear suspension for towing, if you can believe that. Now, it didn't have a trailer hitch or anything like that on it, but I thought that's kind of funny that you would have a towing package on a 65 GTO, but I guess that was the mentality back in the day. Anyway, so the shocks are new. The coil springs are original to the car. And if shadows get in the way, I apologize because of the lighting, but the coil springs are original. I just cleaned them and repainted them. But the main component that I had to contend with were the lower trailing arms. There's the lower one on the passenger side, and then the upper trailing arms, and there's the upper trailing arm on the passenger side, and specifically the bushings. And you'll see in some of the images that I put up as far as the restoration itself, those bushings were absolutely completely shot. So to remove the trailing arms so that I could get the bushings out of the car, what I did was obviously I had the car up on the lift like it is, and I used one of these. Actually, I have two of them, but I got one there just to kind of illustrate. I used an underhoist safety stand to kind of support the rear axle. I had one actually on either side, and I took the tension up on that, and that allowed me to take and remove this lower shock mount right here, the bolt for the shock, which then I could remove the shock. And once the shocks were off the car, then I could use the jack stands to help support as I removed the trailing arms. Now, I didn't remove the trailing arms all at once. I did this one at a time because I did not want to take the axle completely out of the car. So I started with the lower trailing arms first. I removed those, and then I moved, once those were done, out and new bushings put in them, then I would reinstall it, and I'd move on to the uppers. And I'm going to show you all of the fun stuff that went along with doing that particular part of the job. So that right there is the upper driver's side trailing arm for the rear suspension on the car. And this part here attaches to cross member, and this part attaches to a tab that sits on top of the differential on the rear axle. There's these bearings, and this is what I'm trying to replace. And you can see that one there is pretty worn, cracked, and whatnot. It's press fit into these things here, and they were real bare to get out. I was able to use the hydraulic press to press those out. But the one that resides up in here that attaches to the differential, I couldn't get any tool that give me mechanical advantage to press that out of there. So I actually had to cut the thing out of there. So this is the sleeve on the inside. It fits inside this big rubber bushing, which is press fit inside this steel sleeve here, which is then the whole thing is press fit into a tab on the differential. Well, 55 years of sitting in the car, it was corroded really bad and just absolutely frozen. There was no way that I could get it out. You can see how badly it's rusted. So I ended up having to drill out the rubber around this inner steel sleeve, which is where the bolt goes through. And I could knock that out, and then I could take and knock this old cracked up dry piece of rubber out of there, which just left this steel sleeve frozen inside the differential. And to get that out, I actually used a Sawzall, and I very carefully cut through the center of it, and then used a very heavy punch and a big ball peen hammer to kind of collapse it in on itself a little bit, and that way I could remove it. Serious pain in the butt, but it's out, and now it can go back together. Okay, this is probably the moment that you've been waiting for. Let's take a moment to talk about safety under the lift. The big mistake that I made, and it was a huge one. It really, it scared the hell out of me, to be honest with you. And I was, only by the grace of God did the car not come off the lift, crush me, kill me, destroy the car, destroy my shop, and all that type of stuff. It was bad. And it's all because I was tired and rushing myself and not thinking the process through clearly before I set in motion a series of events that could have ended catastrophically. So here's what I did. So I had the trailing arms, all the new bushings and stuff were on. They were installed back on the car, and I had the shock absorbers in place. They were attached up at the top, but they had not been attached down here at the bottom on the axle. And I was having difficulty because the rear axle was hanging down so far, because obviously the coil springs were pushing way down, that the shock would not extend far enough to actually get the bolt in the hole to install the shock. And so what would be the right thing to do? And I know all of you out there that have done car repair stuff before would say, you have to have a spring compressor to compress those springs to take and draw the axle up closer to the body of the car so you can put the shocks on. And you'd be 100% correct. But guess what? Old Todd didn't have a spring compressor at that point. I wasn't thinking that. I thought, well, gee whiz. I've got these great things here, these safety stands. I put the safety stand on there like that, and I can wrench that bad boy up, and that would take and compress that spring, which it did, and I'll get enough where I can put a bolt in, and everything will be great, easy peasy, right? Well, I wasn't actually working on the passenger side of the car. I was over here on the driver's side of the car, and I was doing just that. And as I was trying to get the spring compressed enough to put the bolt back in for the lower part of the shock, the car shifted. It shifted to the left. It didn't go far, fortunately, but it shifted and it made a noise when it did. And I kid you not, my heart stopped. I mean, I went, oh, and I froze. I absolutely froze. I thought, oh, is it coming down? What's it doing? And for that split second, and I don't know what that was, 1/1,000,000th of a second or whatever, that finally the synapses of my brain started firing the neurons and saying, think about what you're doing, Brown. Well, anyway, I released tension on the on the safety stand here, and I went and I got myself a spring compressor tool. Why did that happen? Well, I wasn't thinking so much, but the car at this particular point, the engine was out of it. The front fenders, the whole front clip was off of the car. The interior was out of the car. The trunk lid was off. I don't remember whether I had the windshield and the rear window removed. Oh, I did. I had the windshield and the rear window was removed because I had done rust repair. So anyways, and a rear bumper was obviously off the car. So what does that tell you? Well, the car itself was considerably lighter than what it is right now. So the force of gravity that's holding the thing in place was a whole lot different. So you didn't have to apply too much force upward on this rear axle to get the car to get light on these rear mounts. And that's exactly what I did. So I want to share that with you in case anybody is ever out there doing something like this and you're an amateur like I am, first-time restorationist. Hell, we're human. We make mistakes. And that was a really big one and very nearly could have cost me my life. And at the very worst, the car could have fallen off and I could have ruined the car and all the time and effort that I had put into it. So anyways, I hope you learn from my mistake, and good Lord willing, I won't ever make a stupid mistake like that again. Well, that's the story behind the restoration of the rear suspension on my GTO. It was quite the learning experience, as you've seen, in more ways than one. And I hope you liked the video. If you enjoyed this episode, please check out my other videos on this restoration. And please make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss the next video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.